Modern life offers endless paths but few true directions. We navigate a world rich in comforts but often poor in purpose, where external validation so often replaces an internal compass. Marcus Aurelius wrote that the soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts. This is the heart of an unspoken code, a system of principles practiced by the ancient Stoics, not for fame, but for the forging of an unbreakable character. This video will reveal the core tenets of this Stoic code, a practical framework for building personal integrity and resilience that no external circumstance can shatter. You will discover how to construct an inner citadel of virtue, turning life's inevitable challenges into the very material for your growth. How will the quality of your thoughts shape the strength of your character in the week to come? The first rule of the Stoic code is that your character is your ultimate fortress. Think of it as an inner citadel, a stronghold built not of stone, but of virtue. The Stoics identified 4 cardinal virtues as its unshakable walls: wisdom to see the world clearly, courage to face difficulty, justice to act with fairness, and temperance to exercise self-command. They believed these qualities are the only true good, the only possessions that can never be taken from you or shaken by outside events. Your reputation can be challenged by rumor, your wealth can change in an instant, but your integrity, once formed, remains entirely under your own care. The philosopher Epictetus, who knew hardship from an early age, expressed this with powerful simplicity. He said, "Some things are up to us, and some things are not up to us." Our opinions, our impulses, our desires, our own actions, these are up to us. Everything else, our property, our standing, how others see us, these are not. The entire Stoic journey begins with this profound shift of focus from what happens to you to how you choose to respond. Imagine a common situation. You find an error in your favor on a tax return, a meaningful amount of money that no one else is aware of. The external outcome, the easy gain, pulls you one way. But the inner citadel of virtue calls for justice and honesty. Deciding to correct the error, even with a personal cost, is an act of building that fortress. You are actively strengthening the wall, affirming that your character is more valuable than any temporary advantage. The money may be spent and gone, but the strength you build is lasting. This is the living practice of the code. It is not about rejecting the world, but about valuing what you truly control, your inner world, above all else. Where in your own life this week could you make a choice that honors virtue, like honesty or courage, over a more comfortable or convenient external outcome? That single decision is a brick placed in your own enduring character. How often do you react to a situation before you have truly understood it? This moment between an event and your response is where the second principle of the Stoic code lies. It is called the Discipline of Assent. The Stoics understood that our initial impressions of events are often misleading, colored by emotion, bias, or simple misunderstanding. Your honor is not threatened by the event itself, but by your quick, unexamined agreement with a faulty interpretation of it. The practice is to insert a pause, a sacred space for rational evaluation, before you give your inner assent to any judgment. This pause is your primary defense against reactive decisions that can compromise your character. Epictetus offered a timeless insight on this. He said, "People are not disturbed by things, but by the views which they take of them." The critical email, the perceived slight from a friend, the sudden change of plans, these things hold no inherent power to upset you. The disturbance comes only when you immediately assent to the impression that this is a catastrophe, an insult, or a personal attack. Consider receiving a piece of critical feedback on a project you poured your heart into. The initial impression might scream, "This is an unfair rejection of all my hard work." Without the discipline of assent, that impression instantly becomes your truth, triggering a defensive, perhaps even angry, reply. You react to protect your ego, but in doing so, you may act dishonorably, damaging a relationship and closing yourself off to growth. Now apply the pause. You notice the impression, but you do not immediately agree with its dramatic story. You hold it up to the light of reason. Is the feedback entirely without merit? Could there be a single useful point hidden in the critique? Is the person offering it actually trying to help, even if their delivery is imperfect? By choosing to assent only to a more measured and rational view, you reclaim your power. Your response becomes considered and honorable. You might thank them for their perspective and ask clarifying questions, or you might decide which parts to integrate and which to let go, all without a trace of resentment. This transforms a potential conflict into an opportunity for strengthening your character. Think back to a recent time you reacted impulsively, perhaps in a tense conversation or when a plan fell apart. How did that immediate assent to your first impression shape the outcome? Now consider how inserting that brief pause, that moment of rational evaluation, might have allowed you to respond from a place of integrity instead of impulse. This is the daily work of building a character that cannot be broken. Your honor is not defined by results, but by the quality of your will and effort. This is the third and perhaps most profound principle of the Stoic Code, the sovereignty of your inner intention. While the world often judges us by outcomes, the Stoics measured a person by the integrity of their attempt, by the purity of their purpose in the action itself. The ancient dichotomy of control makes this beautifully clear. Your absolute domain is over your choices, your efforts, and your desires. The final result, however, belongs to the realm of external events, influenced by countless factors beyond your command. To tie your sense of honor to an outcome is to build your house on shifting sand. To anchor it in your sincere intention is to build on bedrock. Marcus Aurelius continually returned to this inner citadel, reminding himself that the soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts. He was speaking of this very sovereignty, that the moral quality of your mind, the integrity of your intent, is what truly colors your character, regardless of what happens outside of you. Imagine you dedicate months to a creative project, pouring your best effort, your deepest care, and your most honest work into it. You act with diligence and passion. Yet when you share it with others, it may not gain the recognition you hoped for. It might be met with quiet or critique. The external outcome may not match your hopes. If your honor is tied only to that result, you can feel deeply discouraged. But if your honor is rooted in the sovereignty of your will, your perspective shifts entirely. You can look back and affirm that your intentions were honorable, your effort was wholehearted, and your process was true. The outcome does not erase the integrity of that journey. In fact, holding to an honorable effort even when results are not what you wished for builds a character of remarkable resilience. It teaches you that your worth is not for the world to grant or withhold. It is something you confirm with every honorable choice you make. Think of a goal you recently pursued but did not achieve, perhaps a professional opportunity that did not come through, or a personal milestone that remained out of reach. Now set the outcome aside for a moment. Look only at your own will during that pursuit. Were your intentions aligned with virtue? Was your effort marked by courage and honesty? If you can answer yes, then that endeavor was not a failure for your character. It was a success in the only arena that truly matters, strengthening the one thing that can never be broken from the outside. The Stoic Code demands that you not just accept your fate, but love it. This is the principle of Amor Fati, a love of one's fate that transforms every obstacle into an essential ingredient for your strength. It is the ultimate act of sovereignty over your own narrative, refusing to see any event as a misfortune and instead greeting it as a necessary part of your journey. The philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche would later capture this spirit perfectly when he wrote that his formula for greatness in a human being is Amor Fati, the desire for nothing to be different, not in the future, not in the past, not for all eternity. Yet this idea is deeply Stoic, echoing the words of Marcus Aurelius, who wrote that a blazing fire makes flame and brightness out of everything that is thrown into it. And Epictetus, who reminded us that difficulty shows what a person is. This is not passive resignation. It is an active, courageous embrace of reality in its entirety. When you love your fate, you disarm the power of circumstance to make you bitter or resentful. You stop fighting the current of life and learn to swim with it, discovering that the very resistance you feared was what made you stronger. Consider a professional shift like an unexpected job change. The initial impression is one of surprise and redirection. The path you had mapped out is suddenly altered. A person without this code might spiral into frustration, seeing only what was left behind. But Amor Fati asks a different question. What if this closing of one door is guiding me toward a better one I could not yet see? Perhaps this redirection encourages you to start the business you always contemplated, or to retrain for a field that is far more aligned with your true character. The shift itself becomes the necessary catalyst for a more authentic life. You look back not with frustration at the company that moved on, but with a kind of gratitude for the nudge that your own comfort would never have allowed. This reframing is an act of character building. It forges a resilience that is not brittle, but flexible and enduring, because it is rooted in a fundamental trust in the process of your own growth. Every difficulty is now raw material for your inner foundation. So take a moment and bring to mind one current situation in your own life. It could be a relationship that needs care, a financial learning curve, or a personal goal that feels just out of reach. Now, instead of resisting it, practice this radical embrace. Ask yourself, how can this very situation be used to build my patience, my courage, or my creativity? How is it, in its own challenging way, a gift that is strengthening the person I am meant to become? You might be surprised to learn the Stoics intentionally imagined life without everything they held dear. This ancient exercise, known as the Premeditation of Challenges, was not a practice in pessimism, but a profound tool for building mental fortitude. By regularly reflecting on the temporary nature of possessions, social standing, or even their closest bonds, they aim to accomplish two powerful shifts in their minds. First, they ease the fear of change, recognizing that everything external is ultimately on loan from life itself. Second, and perhaps more importantly, they cultivated a deep, vibrant appreciation for what they already possessed in the present moment. The Roman philosopher Seneca captured this perfectly when he advised that we should love all our dear ones, but always with the thought that we have no promise we may keep them always. This is not a call to emotional distance, but to a more profound engagement, free from the anxious grip of clinging too tightly. The practice transforms your relationship with the world. It prepares your mind to face any difficulty with honor, because you have already walked that uncertain path in your thoughts and found that your character, your inner citadel, remains intact. Consider your own life for a moment. Think about your current role or your primary source of income. Now, instead of pushing away the natural concern around its stability, lean gently into the thought. Imagine just for a minute that it was no longer there. Notice the initial hesitation, the sense of uncertainty. Then, guide your mind further. See yourself navigating that situation with the virtues we have discussed, with the courage to begin again, the wisdom to reassess your path, and the temperance to manage your resources. You quickly realize that while the comfort of the role is valuable, your ability to endure and adapt is far more fundamental. This mental rehearsal does not summon difficulty, it dismantles its power over you. It allows you to return to your present circumstances with a renewed sense of gratitude for the work you have and the resilience you carry within. Take a minute today to try this. Choose one comfort, one thing or relationship you deeply value. Visualize its absence, not to dwell in sadness, but to discover the strength that lies beneath your connection. How does this brief exercise change your perception of that very thing you cherish right now, in this moment? See the world as it is, not as you wish it to be. This is the sixth principle of the Stoic Code, the art of objective judgment. It calls for you to gently peel away the layers of story, the labels of good and bad that your mind instinctively places onto every event. The event itself is simply an event, a collection of facts. Your judgment about it, however, is what holds the power to disturb your peace and compromise your honor. The Stoics considered everything outside your own virtue as indifferent, meaning these externals are not inherently good or bad. Their moral value comes only from how you choose to use them. A rejection letter is just a piece of paper with a single word, no. It is your interpretation that transforms it into a difficult moment for your self-worth or a challenging turn in your path. Marcus Aurelius dedicated much of his private writing to this very practice. He instructed himself to continually set aside the judgment that something is terrible, to see the thing itself for what it is without the added narrative. He was not denying reality, he was cleaning the lens through which he perceived it, ensuring his responses were based on truth, not on a fearful or prideful fiction. Imagine the moment you receive that news. The initial impression might say, "I am not good enough. They saw right through me. This is a major setback." That is the story, the value judgment you are adding. Now practice the art of objective judgment. Gently set it all aside. What are the simple facts? An organization you applied to has decided not to proceed with your application at this time. That is all. There is no inherent statement about your worth or your future in that fact. By holding to this neutral ground, you reclaim your power. You are no longer reacting to a phantom, a story your own mind created. From this clear-headed space, your response can be honorable and constructive. You might feel disappointment, which is natural, but you are not defined by it. You can choose to seek feedback, to apply elsewhere, or to simply acknowledge that this particular path is closed for now. Your character remains intact because it was never tied to the outcome, only to the clarity and integrity of your response. Think of a recent event that triggered a strong emotional reaction in you. Perhaps a comment from a colleague or a sudden shift in a plan you were counting on. Now, try to re-describe that event to yourself using only plain, factual language. Remove all the charged words, the labels of unfair or difficult. Simply state what happened, as if you were a neutral observer reporting the facts. How does this simple act of re-description change the weight of the event? The situation itself may not have changed, but your relationship to it has. This is the daily practice of building a character that sees clearly and responds with honor, no matter what the world presents. A Stoic's honor is not a solitary pursuit, it is fulfilled in service to others. Your inner citadel of character finds its deepest meaning not in isolation, but in how it strengthens the world around you. The ancient Stoics called this concept sympatheia, the profound understanding that all of humanity is part of a single, interconnected system. Just as your own body relies on the cooperation of hands and feet, your well-being is inextricably linked to the well-being of your community. This is why justice and kindness are not optional virtues, they are fundamental duties. Marcus Aurelius reflected on this from the front lines of leadership, writing, "What brings no benefit to the hive brings none to the bee." He understood that a person's honor is measured by their contribution to the common good, by their willingness to act for the benefit of the whole. This is the final, outward expression of the unspoken code. It moves the focus from building your own resilience to actively using that strength in service of others. Imagine a common scenario at work. A colleague is struggling with a complex task on a shared project. You have already mastered your own part and could easily leave them to their struggle, focusing only on your individual contribution. There is no direct personal benefit to stepping in, no bonus or immediate recognition. In fact, it might cost you some time and energy, yet choosing to offer your help to share your knowledge and ensure their success is a pure act of Stoic duty. You are practicing justice by ensuring the team functions fairly, and you are embodying kindness through your action. You are not building your character for yourself alone, you are using it as a tool for the benefit of your shared hive. This week, consider one small, quiet way you can perform an act of service. It does not need to be grand. It could be offering patient listening to a family member without interruption, volunteering an hour of your time to a local cause, or simply allowing another driver to merge into your lane during a busy commute. In that moment of conscious choice, you are not just being helpful, you are actively honoring the Stoic code, weaving your own thread of strength into the fabric of the common good. How much of what you say today will truly matter, and how much will drain your energy? This question lies at the heart of the 8th principle of the Stoic code, the guard of silence. It is the practice of speaking sparingly and with clear purpose, a discipline that directly protects your integrity and your inner peace. The Stoics viewed undisciplined speech not as a minor social misstep, but as a profound leak of your vital inner resources. Every unnecessary word, especially those steeped in gossip, complaint, or idle chatter, scatters your focus and pulls you into engagements that can compromise your honor. This is not about never speaking, but about ensuring that when you do, your words carry weight and align with the virtue of temperance, the self-command over your own impulses. The philosopher Epictetus offered a simple, physical reminder of this balance. "We have 2 ears and 1 mouth," he noted, "so that we can listen twice as much as we speak." This ratio is a practical guide for daily life, steering you away from reactive speech and toward thoughtful understanding. Consider a common workplace scenario. You are in a break room and a colleague begins to speak critically about another team member who is not present. The easy, impulsive path is to join in, to add your own observation or simply nod along to fit in. The guard of silence, however, asks you to pause. You recognize that participating in this kind of talk serves no honorable purpose. It does not help the person being discussed, it weakens the trust within your team, and it actively drains your own character by engaging in something you know is not right. Choosing to simply listen without contributing, or perhaps gently changing the subject, is an act of quiet strength. It demonstrates that your peace and your integrity are more valuable than the temporary social bond forged through shared complaint. This single choice builds your inner citadel far more than any grand statement ever could. For the next full day, become an observer of your own words. Carry a small mental notepad and simply notice the impulse to speak. Before you give voice to a thought, ask yourself quietly, is this necessary? Is it kind? Is it true? You may be surprised by how much of your speech is habitual, a mere filling of space rather than a purposeful contribution. This practice of observation is the first, most powerful step toward mastering the guard of silence and conserving the energy that builds an unbreakable character. You could leave life right now. The Stoic Code requires you to live with that in mind. This is the ninth principle, the practice of Memento Mori, which translates to a simple yet profound command: remember you must die. Far from a morbid fixation, this was the Stoics' ultimate tool for grounding themselves in what is truly essential. It acts as a sharp, clarifying lens that cuts through the noise of daily distractions and trivial concerns, revealing the enduring shape of your character and your purpose. The Roman philosopher Seneca, in his letters, captured the liberating power of this perspective. He wrote, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste a lot of it." Life is long enough, and it has been given in sufficiently generous measure to allow the accomplishment of the very greatest things, if the whole of it is well invested. For the Stoic, remembering mortality is the very engine of a life well invested. It instills a gentle but persistent urgency, a nudge to stop postponing your integrity and to start living by your highest values today, not in some distant, hypothetical future. Imagine you are holding onto a minor grievance with someone you care about. Perhaps a harsh word was exchanged weeks ago, and a quiet distance has grown between you. The pettiness of the issue feels amplified in the silence. Now bring the lens of Memento Mori to this situation. If you were to learn that your time with this person was profoundly limited, how would your perspective on this conflict shift? The specific reason for the disagreement would likely lose its significance, revealing the true priority, the connection itself. The courageous, honorable action would become clear: to reach out, to mend the bridge, to choose the relationship over the pride. This is not a sad thought, it is a freeing one. It cuts through the ego's defenses and guides you toward the action that builds rather than breaks your character. Think of a dream you have quietly postponed, telling yourself there will be more time later. A skill you want to learn, a creative project you wish to start, a difficult but necessary conversation you need to have. The awareness of life's finitude asks you a direct question: what are you truly waiting for? This very day is the only time you are guaranteed to act. Take out a piece of paper or open a note on your phone. Write down one single thing you would do differently this week if you fully embrace the reality that your time is limited. It does not have to be a grand, life-altering gesture. It could be as simple as finally making that phone call, writing the first paragraph of your story, or letting go of a resentment you have carried for too long. This single act of writing is the first step in turning a philosophical principle into a living, breathing part of your unbreakable code. How do you handle a major win versus a difficult loss? To a Stoic, the response should be the same. This final principle of the Stoic Code is the ultimate test of your inner strength, the cultivation of an even mind that remains unshaken by the changing tides of life. The Stoics called this state apatheia, a profound inner calm that is not about ignoring emotion, but about freeing yourself from being ruled by the strong feelings that outside events can stir. It is the mark of a character that has been shaped into something truly resilient. The core insight is that both clear success and disappointing outcomes are seen as indifference. They are not in themselves good or bad for your spirit. What matters, what truly defines your honor, is the thoughtful response you choose in either situation. Your character is revealed not by what happens to you, but by the consistency of your integrity through all of it. Seneca, in his letters, offered a powerful image of this ideal. He wrote that the wise person is like the deep ocean, which remains calm and stable even through the strongest storms on its surface. A favorable wind does not carry them away, nor does a contrary wind push them off their path. This is the essence of Stoic balance. Your inner worth remains constant, untouched by the changing conditions of the outside world. Imagine a celebrated athlete standing on the podium after a major competition. If they win, they accept the medal with genuine humility, acknowledging the role of circumstance, their team, and their own effort without pride. They feel the happiness of the moment, but it does not enlarge their sense of self. The very next season, they might experience a close defeat. The honorable response is to accept the outcome with the same steady grace, offering sincere congratulations to the one who won, and focusing on what can be learned from the experience. Their self-worth was never tied to the gold medal. It was rooted in the discipline of their preparation, the fairness of their actions, and the courage of their effort. The medal is an external, the character is lasting. This equilibrium is what separates a passing reaction from an enduring strength. Now, turn this lens onto your own daily life. You do not need a podium to practice this principle. Consider your emotional landscape over the past week. Were you lifted to a high by a piece of encouraging news, a kind word, or a small personal achievement? Then were you shortly after brought low by a minor critique, a delayed plan, or a challenging interaction? This ups and downs, being moved about by small wins and losses, is a signal that your peace is still conditional, still dependent on things outside your control. The practice of balance asks you to notice these swings without judgment and to consciously choose a more centered response. The next time you receive praise, receive it gratefully but lightly, without letting it define you. And the next time you face a small setback, meet it with the same calm thoughtfulness, without letting it lessen you. This is how you build a steadiness that honors the Stoic code in every moment, forging a character that success cannot spoil and difficulty cannot break. The Stoic code intentionally seeks out manageable challenges to build a character that cannot be shaken by difficulty. This seems contradictory, even counterproductive, in a world that prioritizes ease and convenience. Yet the ancient Stoics understood a fundamental truth, that by willingly facing small, intentional hardships, you prepare yourself for larger, unforeseen ones. This is the power of voluntary practice, a method designed not to punish the body, but to free the mind from its dependence on external conditions for happiness. It is a training ground for resilience, proving to yourself through direct experience that you can endure and even thrive with far less than you believe. The Stoic teacher Musonius Rufus was a strong advocate for this, arguing that practice is worth more than theory. He taught that experiencing cold and heat, thirst and hunger builds a ruggedness of spirit, a confidence that your well-being is an internal state, not an external circumstance. Figures like Cato the Younger were known for their simple lifestyles, not because they could not afford luxury, but because they chose to show that their happiness was not for sale. They wore humble clothing and ate plain food to demonstrate that their strength came from within, not from their comfort. In our modern context, this does not require a life of radical denial. It is about small, thoughtful choices. It could be taking a cool shower for the final minute of your morning routine, a practice that trains your mind to breathe through initial resistance and find calm within the challenge. It could be choosing to skip a meal once a week, not for dietary reasons, but to remind yourself that you are more than your physical impulses. It could be as simple as leaving your phone at home during a walk, voluntarily embracing the quiet and noticing the mental urge to be constantly connected. Each of these small acts is a vote for your own sovereignty. They are quiet declarations that your peace is not held hostage by perfect conditions. For the next 7 days, choose one small, voluntary practice to incorporate into your routine. It does not need to be dramatic. Perhaps you will take the stairs instead of the elevator, or drink water instead of a sweetened beverage with one meal. As you do it, observe the initial impulse to avoid the minor effort, and then notice the quiet strength that appears when you consciously move through it. What do you discover about your own resilience when you willingly step into a small challenge? not because you have to, but because you can. Wherever you are, be there totally. This is a non-negotiable part of the Stoic code. A mind divided between the present moment and some other time or place is a mind vulnerable to mediocrity and ethical compromise. When your attention is fractured, you are not fully in command of your actions. You operate on autopilot, and it is in these unexamined spaces that small dishonorable choices can slip through. A half-truth told because you are not fully listening, a task done poorly because your mind was elsewhere, a promise broken through simple neglect. The Stoic practice is to pour your entire being into the single thing in front of you, right now. This total presence is what transforms ordinary action into a continuous exercise in building integrity. Marcus Aurelius directed himself to concentrate on every action as if it were your last, to let nothing distract you from your purpose. He was not being dramatic, he was being practical. Treating each task with this level of care and focus ensures it is done with honor as a reflection of your character. Consider a simple evening at home. You are speaking with a loved one about their day, but your phone is on the table, its screen lighting up with notifications. The divided approach is to nod along while mentally composing a reply to a message, your presence merely a polite echo. The honorable action, the one that builds your inner citadel, is to consciously turn the phone face down, or even leave it in another room, and to give that person your complete and undivided attention. You listen not just to the words, but to the feelings behind them. This is an act of profound respect, a living demonstration that in this moment they are your most important task. It costs you nothing but a little redirected focus, and it pays a dividend in strengthened connection and personal integrity that no notification can ever offer. Today, choose one routine task, something you normally do on autopilot. It could be washing the dishes, drafting an email, or walking to your car. For the duration of that single activity, commit to being wholly there. Notice the sensation of the warm water on your hands, the careful choice of each word you write, the feeling of the ground beneath your feet. When your mind inevitably wanders, gently guide it back without judgment. This is not about the task itself, but about the quality of your presence within it. What do you discover about the act and about your own capacity for focus when you stop dividing your attention and instead invest it completely in the one thing you are doing? The Stoic refuses the title of victim, no matter the circumstance. This is not a denial of hardship or the reality of unfair treatment, but a radical claim of agency over the one territory that can never be invaded, your own inner self. The code teaches that while you may not control the events that befall you, you always, without exception, control the interpretation you assign to them and the response you choose to enact. To adopt a victim mentality is to hand over this sacred sovereignty, to grant an external event permanent power over your peace and your honor. Epictetus offered the foundational insight for this principle when he said, "People are not disturbed by things, but by the views which they take of them." The feeling of being wronged does not live in the event itself, but in the story you agree to tell about it. Imagine you receive a deeply unfair public criticism about your work. The initial, raw impression screams that this is an attack, an injustice that threatens your reputation. The victim mindset immediately agrees with this story, fueling a reactive response, perhaps a defensive email, a bitter complaint to a colleague, or a silent, festering resentment. This reaction, while understandable, comes from a place of powerlessness, as if your character were defined by another person's opinion. The Stoic refusal of victimhood inserts a powerful pause. You acknowledge the unfairness as a simple fact, but you refuse to let that fact become the entire story of your worth. You then ask from a place of agency, what is the most honorable and effective response available to me? This might mean choosing to address the criticism with calm, factual clarity, or it might mean deciding that no response best serves your integrity and simply continuing your work with undiminished excellence. In either case, you have moved from being acted upon to acting with purpose. Your honor is no longer tied to the fairness of the world, but to the dignity of your own conduct within it. Think of one area in your own life where you feel a sense of victimhood, perhaps a recurring frustration at work or a personal relationship that feels one-sided. Now, for just a moment, set the entire story of blame aside. Do not think about what was done or said. Focus only on this single question: what is one small, proactive step I can take today that aligns with my own values, regardless of what anyone else has done? This shift in focus from what was taken to what you can build is the very essence of reclaiming your power and forging a character that circumstance cannot break. Your actions are your truth. The Stoic code demands they match your words. This principle cuts to the heart of honor, revealing the profound link between what you profess to believe and what you actually do in the world. Hypocrisy for the Stoics was not a minor social misstep. It was a fundamental crack in one's character, a sign that the inner citadel was not yet strong. Integrity, by contrast, is the seamless expression of your virtues in every single deed, no matter how small or unseen. It is the ultimate measure of a person's progress. The philosopher Epictetus put it with startling clarity. He said, "If you did not learn these things in order to demonstrate them in practice, for what purpose did you learn them?" He was pointing to this exact alignment. Your understanding of courage, justice, or wisdom means nothing if it remains only a thought. It must live in your actions. Your true philosophy is not what you say you believe, it is what you consistently do. Consider a promise you make to yourself, perhaps a simple commitment to a daily walk for your health. You tell yourself this is important, a value you hold for your own well-being. But when the alarm rings early on a cold morning, the warm bed offers a powerful counter-argument. The easy choice is to hit snooze and tell yourself you will go tomorrow. The honorable action, the one that builds integrity, is to rise and follow through. This is not about the walk itself, but about the sacred contract you have with your own word. Every time you act in accordance with your stated values, you are placing another brick in the wall of your character. You are proving to yourself that your word, even the private one you give to yourself, is binding. This builds a self-trust that becomes the foundation for all other trust in your life. Now turn this lens onto a broader aspect of your life. Is there a value you often speak about, such as the importance of family, of creativity, or of continuous learning? Now look honestly at your calendar and your energy from the past week. Does the way you actually spent your time reflect that stated priority? If you say family is central, but your evenings are filled with screen time rather than connection, a quiet disconnect exists. If you value creativity but never carve out the minutes to practice your craft, your actions are telling a different story. This is not a call for self-judgment, but for gentle, honest observation. Where can you begin to close that gap, even in a small way, this very week? Aligning a single action with a single value is how you make your inner truth visible, forging a character that is whole, consistent, and truly unbreakable. The Stoic seeks a joy that cannot be taken away because its source is internal. This is not the fleeting pleasure of a good meal or a moment of laughter, though those have their place. This is eudaimonia, a deep and lasting fulfillment that flows from the excellence of your own character and the integrity of your actions. It is a state of being that remains untouched by the rise and fall of your external circumstances because it is built on the one foundation you truly own. Seneca drew a powerful line between this profound joy and the simple pleasures of the senses. He wrote that true joy is a serious matter, a thing that springs from a mind content with its own virtue. Pleasure is often loud and demanding, always seeking the next source of stimulation. Joy, in the Stoic sense, is a quiet and constant companion, available whenever you choose to act with courage, wisdom, or kindness. It is the satisfaction of knowing your will is aligned with what is right, regardless of the outcome. Picture the temporary high of a shopping spree. The anticipation, the acquisition, the brief thrill of something new, yet that feeling fades quickly, often replaced by a sense of emptiness or the concern over a bill. The object you purchased becomes ordinary, and the search for the next source of that fleeting pleasure begins again. Now, contrast that with the quiet satisfaction of helping a neighbor carry their groceries, of patiently mentoring a junior colleague, or of keeping a promise to yourself that required discipline. There is no loud celebration, no external reward. There is only a deep, resonating sense of rightness, a confirmation that you have lived in accordance with your nature as a rational and social being. That feeling does not fade, it accumulates, becoming part of the bedrock of your character. It is a joy that no market shift can erase and no criticism can diminish. Take a quiet moment to look at your own life. What are 3 sources of joy for you that are entirely within your control, completely independent of what you own or how others see you? Perhaps it is the simple act of completing a difficult task with focus, the feeling of calm after a mindful walk, or the inner warmth that comes from offering a genuine compliment. These are the quiet wells of eudaimonia, always available, waiting only for you to draw from them. How often do you hold your own character up to the light for inspection? The Stoics believed this quiet, nightly ritual was the single most powerful practice for forging an unbreakable honor. They called it the evening meditation, a dedicated time to review the day's events not for what you accomplished, but for how you acted. This was not an exercise in self-criticism, but in honest self-assessment, a way to acknowledge moments of virtue and to gently correct missteps in judgment. It is the process of a craftsman refining their own work, where the material is your own moral progress. Seneca wrote extensively about his own commitment to this practice in his letters. He described how he would question himself each night, asking where he could have chosen more wisely, what he had done, and what part of his daily duty he had left unattended. He saw this as the path to a peaceful mind and a clear conscience, the ultimate reward for a life lived with intention. Imagine your own day is done. The noise of tasks and interactions has settled. In this quiet space, you ask yourself 3 simple but profound questions. What did I do well today in terms of my character? Perhaps you demonstrated patience in a frustrating moment, or you chose honesty when a simpler untruth was available. Acknowledge that success. Then, with equal honesty, ask where you could have acted with more integrity. Maybe you spoke harshly out of irritation, or you avoided a difficult conversation out of fear. The goal is not to punish yourself, but to see the pattern clearly, to understand the trigger so you can prepare for it next time. Finally, ask how you can do better tomorrow. This turns reflection into a plan for growth, ensuring that every single day becomes a stepping stone toward a more integrated and honorable self. Tonight, before you sleep, give yourself the gift of just 5 quiet minutes. Sit with these questions not as a judge, but as a compassionate guide to your own character. What single insight from this brief self-examination could you carry into tomorrow, transforming a simple daily review into the very engine of your unbreakable code? The Stoic code frees you from the tyranny of other people's opinions. Your honor is an internal fortress, and its walls should not be raised or lowered by the shifting winds of praise or blame. Both are external to your will, mere echoes that cannot define the substance of your character. To seek validation from others is to build your home on a foundation you do not control, ensuring it will tremble with every compliment and crumble with every critique. True integrity relies on an internal scorecard, a private measure of your actions against the unwavering standards of virtue. Marcus Aurelius captured this perfectly in his private writings, reminding himself, it is quite possible to be a good man without anyone realizing it. Remember that the praise of the crowd is fickle, a sound that changes with the season, and to depend on it is to hand over your sense of self to the whims of others. Consider an artist who spends years developing a unique style, one that challenges conventions and may not find immediate popularity. They face a clear choice. They can alter their vision to court public favor, chasing the warm glow of external approval, or they can remain true to their artistic conscience, creating work that aligns with their deepest understanding of beauty and truth, regardless of whether it receives acclaim or silence. The artist who chooses the latter path is living this Stoic principle. They find their satisfaction not in the reviews or sales figures, but in the knowledge that they acted with the courage and integrity of their craft. The work itself, created with honorable intent, is the success, and the public reaction is simply another indifferent event, data to be observed without letting it steer their inner compass. Think back to a moment in your own life when you were deeply affected by praise, perhaps a compliment that lifted your entire day. Then recall a time you were moved by criticism, a remark that lingered and clouded your mood. In both cases, your emotional state was outsourced. Your peace became conditional on something outside your command. Now, gently reframe those memories. How would your experience have changed if you had held to a quiet internal scorecard, acknowledging the feedback without letting it become the final verdict on your worth? The praise could be received with gratitude, but not as a source of identity. The criticism could be examined for useful insight, then released if it held no value. This emotional sovereignty is the ultimate liberation, building a character so secure that neither flattery nor blame can shake its core. The Stoic knows the precise point where enough is reached and seeks nothing beyond it. In a world that constantly whispers of more, this is a radical act of self-possession. The virtue of temperance is your compass in this landscape of endless wanting, guiding you to a clear and conscious limit for your own needs. This is not about deprivation, but about liberation, about breaking the exhausting cycle of acquisition that can never truly be satisfied. When you define what is enough for you, you reclaim your independence from the marketplace of desires. Your happiness is no longer a moving target, forever just out of reach with the next purchase or promotion. Seneca captured the heart of this wisdom when he observed that wealth is the slave of the wise, but the master of the fool. For the person who knows what is sufficient, money is a tool that serves a good life. For the one who does not, it becomes a demanding master, always requiring more and offering less peace in return. This is the critical difference between using possessions and being used by them. Consider the modern pursuit of a higher salary. There is nothing dishonorable in earning well, but the Stoic code asks you to examine the motive. Are you seeking a raise to secure a baseline of security and freedom, a clearly defined enough that allows you to focus on what matters? Or are you chasing an ever-increasing number because you have tied your self-worth to a figure, constantly comparing your standing to others in a race that has no finish line? Deciding that your current income, or a specific one, is sufficient for your needs is an immense relief. It dramatically reduces the anxiety of comparison and the fear of missing out. It frees up mental energy previously spent on wanting and redirects it toward living, toward building relationships, practicing your virtues, and contributing to your community. The ambition does not disappear, but its purpose shifts from accumulation to expression and service. Take a quiet moment this week to define what enough looks like in one specific area of your life. It could be the number of possessions in your home, the time you spend on social media, or the hours you dedicate to work. Write it down. This single act of definition is a declaration of your sovereignty, a quiet step toward building a character that is content with little because it finds its wealth within. Socrates chose to drink hemlock rather than abandon his principles. The Stoic code calls for that same courage, the inner strength to stand alone when your integrity is at stake. This is not about seeking conflict or isolation for its own sake, but about understanding that your honor is more valuable than any social approval gained through compromise. Popularity, fitting in, and being well-liked are all seen by the Stoics as preferred indifference, pleasant to have but carrying no real moral weight. Acting with justice and wisdom, however, lies at the heart of a good life, even when it draws criticism or leaves you standing apart. This readiness to be the sole voice of reason tests whether your character rests on the firm ground of virtue or the unstable sands of outside approval. The philosopher Epictetus, who understood the challenge of walking a different path, offered clear direction. He said, "It is better to be alone and of good character than to be in a crowd with none." And do not be afraid of being disliked or standing alone if it means you are acting rightly. Your moral compass must point true north, no matter who is or is not walking beside you. Imagine a situation in a modern workplace. Your team is under pressure to meet a quarterly goal, and someone proposes adjusting a data point in a report to make the results appear stronger. The idea is met with quiet agreement from others, a silent consensus formed by the fear of falling short. The easy route, the one that maintains social harmony and avoids tension, is to stay quiet or even go along. The Stoic way, the one that honors the courage to stand apart, is to voice your concern with clarity and calm. You explain that integrity in reporting is not open for discussion, and that a short-term advantage built on something untrue will eventually harm trust and credibility. In that moment, you might feel the weight of being set apart, the uneasy quiet that follows your position. But that unease is the cost of building a character that remains unshaken. You are showing yourself that your commitment to honesty does not depend on it being easy or widely accepted. What is one belief or principle you hold, perhaps about fairness, truth, or kindness, that you would be ready to uphold even if it meant you had to stand entirely alone in that room? Recognizing that core value is the first step in preparing for the moment your own courage is called upon. From 1,000 years in the future, or the edge of the cosmos, your life appears as a brief, brilliant flash. This is the Stoic view from above, a mental exercise that shrinks our daily anxieties down to their true size and reminds us of our honorable place within a vast, interconnected whole. It is the ultimate tool for gaining perspective, for seeing that the meeting you are dreading, the criticism that stings, the minor conflict that consumes your afternoon, are but tiny specks in the grand sweep of cosmic time and space. Marcus Aurelius practiced this meditation constantly, directing his thoughts to look down upon the bustling human world from above. He wrote, "You can rid yourself of many useless things among those that disturb you, for they lie entirely in your imagination. And you will then gain for yourself a vast space by comprehending the whole universe in your mind." He was not denying the reality of his duties, but he was cleansing them of the ego and the self-importance that so often magnifies our problems. By contemplating the infinite, he found tranquility in the finite. To practice this, take a current worry that feels heavy and immediate, perhaps a disagreement with a colleague that has left you feeling agitated. Now apply the view from above. See the two of you not just in an office, but on a planet spinning in a vast, silent universe. See your city as a mere pattern of lights from this great height. Then pull the lens back further across centuries. See this very moment as a single frame in a long, unspooling film of human history. How significant does that specific disagreement feel now? This is not to say your feelings are invalid, but to place them in a context where they lose their power to overwhelm your reason. From this expanded viewpoint, your path becomes clear. You can respond not from a place of personal pique, but from a place of wisdom, recognizing the shared humanity of the other person and the fleeting nature of the conflict itself. This is how you act in a way that is honorable not just for today, but for the grand scheme of your life. The next time a problem feels all-consuming, grant yourself the gift of this cosmic perspective. Step back mentally and watch as the weight of it lifts, leaving only the quiet clarity of what truly matters. You are the author of the story of your life. The Stoic Code demands you write a noble one. This is the profound responsibility for your own narratives, the recognition that while you may not control the events on the page, you hold absolute authority over the meaning you assign to them. Every challenge, every unexpected turn is a blank space waiting for your interpretation. Will you write a tale of struggle or an epic of resilience and growth? The quality of your character is forged in the ink of these daily choices. The philosopher Epictetus offered the foundational truth for this principle. He said, "It is not things that disturb people, but their judgments about things." Your narrative is that judgment, the running story you tell yourself about what is happening, and it directly shapes your capacity for honor and peace. When you reframe a setback as training, you are not denying the difficulty. You are claiming its purpose, turning the raw material of hardship into strength for your inner citadel. A difficult moment becomes a lesson in what truly holds value, and a perceived injustice transforms into a test of your commitment to fairness and your own unshakable worth. This narrative shift is the ultimate act of authorship, building a spirit that cannot be broken because it finds meaning in every circumstance. Consider someone who experiences a sudden job transition. The initial, unexamined narrative might say, "I am a failure, my security is gone." This story breeds fear, resentment, and a sense of powerlessness, but the Stoic author pauses and chooses a different plot. They write, "This closing is a redirection. It is an opportunity to reassess my true path and to discover a calling that aligns more deeply with my character and my values." The facts have not changed, but the meaning has been entirely transformed. One narrative weakens, the other empowers. One looks backward with blame, the other looks forward with purpose. Now turn this lens inward. Identify one negative narrative you have carried about yourself or your past. Perhaps it is a story that you are not intelligent enough to pursue a certain goal, or that a past experience shapes your present potential. For just a moment, hold that story in your hands as if it were a manuscript you have the power to edit. How could you rewrite that single chapter in a more empowering, stoic light? If the narrative is about a lack of intelligence, could you reframe it as a commitment to persistent learning and growth? If it is about a past error, could you recast it as the essential lesson that forged your current wisdom? This act of rewriting is not self-deception. It is the courageous work of aligning your inner story with the noble character you are building, line by line, every single day. Stoicism is not about being unfeeling. It is about directing your feelings wisely, starting with kindness. This final principle corrects a profound modern misconception of the Stoic as cold or detached. A truly unbreakable character is not a fortress of ice, but a sanctuary of warmth and patience. Your inner honor finds its ultimate expression not in how you stand alone, but in how you treat others, especially those who act poorly. The Stoics called this the virtue of justice in its most active form. When someone is rude, impatient, or makes a mistake, the easy, impulsive reaction is to mirror their energy, to retaliate and defend your own pride. But the honorable response, the one that truly builds your character, is to recognize that people most often act from a place of limited understanding or their own inner struggle, not from a calculated desire to do wrong. Your duty is to meet that lack of awareness not with more of the same, but with patient guidance or a quiet, dignified endurance. Marcus Aurelius, bearing the immense weight of empire, continually reminded himself of this. He wrote, "People exist for one another. You can either improve them or put up with them, and on those who stumble he advised to love them, for of what use are indignation and anger?" This is the imperative of kindness. It is a conscious choice to see the shared humanity in everyone you meet, understanding that they, like you, are navigating their own challenges and are prone to error. Imagine you are in a queue and the person ahead of you turns around, speaking sharply over a minor confusion. Their tone is unkind, their words are unfair. The initial impression suggests a personal insult, seeming to demand an angry reply to correct them. This is the test. The unbroken character does not take the bait. It pauses, sees the frustration likely clouding the other person's judgment, and chooses a different path. You might respond with calm clarity, saying simply, "I think there has been a misunderstanding. I was just waiting my turn." Or you might offer a quiet, patient smile and say nothing at all. By refusing to mirror their irritation, you disarm the entire situation. You have not compromised your honor, you have demonstrated its strength. You have acted with justice by treating someone better than they treated you, and you have practiced immense self-command. This is not weakness, it is the pinnacle of power. Today, perform one unexpected act of kindness. It does not need to be grand. It could be letting a hurried driver merge into your lane with a wave, offering a genuine compliment to a stressed cashier, or simply listening fully to someone without interruption. In that moment, view this not as just being nice, but as the active practice of the Stoic virtue of justice, a quiet brick laid in the foundation of your own unbreakable code. Stoic freedom is not doing what you want, but wanting only what is good for your character. This is the mastery at the heart of Principle 23, the discipline of training your desires and aversions to align solely with virtue and vice. When left unchecked, our yearnings for external things and our powerful fears about outcomes beyond our command can become chains that bind us to a world we do not control. We are pulled by the wish for more money, more status, more comfort, and pushed by our unease with criticism, loss, or discomfort. This constant inner conflict leaves our peace of mind entirely dependent on outside events. But when you align your deepest wants only with what is honorable, and your strongest aversions only with what is dishonorable, you forge a will that is truly resilient. Epictetus described this as the central work of a meaningful life. He said, "The chief task in life is simply this, to identify and separate matters so that I can say clearly to myself which are externals not under my control, and which have to do with the choices I actually control." Your desire must be directed only at your own good choices, your aversion only at your own poor ones. Consider the modern craving for social media validation. The desire is for something external, the fleeting high of likes and positive comments. When you post something, you hand over a piece of your contentment to the algorithms and opinions of strangers. If the engagement is high, you feel a temporary lift. If it is low, you might feel a quiet sense of disappointment. This is a form of bondage to something indifferent. Now shift that desire. Instead of wanting the external validation, transfer the energy of that want to the internal virtue of self-acceptance. Your goal is no longer to receive praise, but to act with authenticity and courage in what you share, regardless of the reaction. The desire is now for your own integrity, something no one can give or take away. The freedom this brings is profound. You post from a place of expression, not from a place of need. The comment section loses its power over your mood because your satisfaction was already secured the moment you acted in alignment with your character. This is the practical work of mastery. It is the daily redirection of your deepest energies from the shifting sands of the outside world to the solid ground of your own virtuous will. What is one desire you hold for an external thing, perhaps for a particular outcome at work or a certain reaction from a loved one? Now, consider how you could transfer that energy. Instead of desiring the promotion, could you desire to act with such diligence and excellence that you would be proud of your effort no matter the result? Instead of craving their approval, could you focus on the virtue of loving kindness, offering it without any expectation of return? This subtle but powerful shift is how you build a character that is free, because it wants only what it can never lose. The first step in the Stoic code is to fully accept the current reality without protest. Fighting what is already happening is like trying to stop the rain by shouting at the clouds, a futile act that drains your energy and compromises your honor. Acceptance is not a passive surrender, but the essential platform from which all wise and virtuous action can spring. You cannot change a situation you refuse to acknowledge. The philosopher Epictetus illustrated this with a powerful metaphor. He said that we are like a dog tied to a cart. If the cart begins to move, the dog has a choice. It can trot along willingly, or it can be dragged, fighting the entire way. The destination remains the same, but the journey is one of either peace or needless struggle. Arguing with reality is the source of most of our frustration, because we are arguing with something that has already happened. Your acceptance is the moment you stop being dragged and start moving with purpose. Imagine you are driving to an important appointment and find yourself in unexpected, heavy traffic. The initial impulse is to protest internally, to feel frustrated by the delay, to grip the steering wheel tighter as anxiety builds. This struggle against the reality of the traffic changes nothing about your situation, but it does change you. It steals your peace and puts you in a reactive state where poor decisions are more likely. Now apply the Stoic acceptance. You take a breath and consciously state the fact, this is what is happening. I am in traffic. There is no immediate way to change this. The moment you accept this, your energy shifts from fighting the delay to managing your response within it. You might use the time to listen to an audiobook, make a hands-free call to reschedule, or simply observe your surroundings with calm curiosity. The situation has not changed, but you have reclaimed your power within it, acting from a place of resourcefulness instead of frustration. This week, choose one minor annoyance in your own life. It could be a long line at the store, a noisy neighbor, or a change in your plans. When you feel the resistance rising, practice saying to yourself quietly and firmly, this is what is happening. Notice the immediate shift in your emotional state, as the energy you are using to fight the reality is suddenly freed up, available now for a response of patience, creativity, or simple calm. The Stoic code values wisdom, the art of living, far above mere knowledge, the simple accumulation of facts. You could fill a library with every philosophical text and memorize every principle, yet still live a life of quiet anxiety and reactive decisions. Knowledge is the collection of information, but wisdom is the masterful application of that understanding to navigate your days with honor and tranquility. Philosophy for the Stoic was never meant to be a theoretical exercise confined to lecture halls. It was always a practical workshop for the soul, a set of tools for the active construction of a virtuous life. The honorable person is ultimately judged not by the intellectual arsenal they possess, but by the quiet dignity and resilience they demonstrate in their everyday actions. Seneca observed this distinction with sharp clarity, noting how some use philosophy as a performance. He wrote that we are not studying in order to know what virtue is, but to become good. Some people, he noted, use their learning as an ornament, not as a tool. They treat wisdom like a decorative piece for their conversation, rather than a compass for their conduct. This is the essential difference between a scholar of virtue and a practitioner of it. One can talk at length about justice, while the other simply acts justly, even when it is difficult. One can quote Epictetus on desire, while the other has actually trained their desires to align with what is good. The proof of your philosophy is in your life, not in your library. Consider two individuals. The first has read every major Stoic work and can debate the finer points of the dichotomy of control with academic precision. Yet, when their plans are disrupted, they become irritable and frustrated, their theoretical knowledge offering no comfort in the moment of actual challenge. The second person may have never heard the word Stoicism, but they live its core tenets. They meet hardship with a steady calm, treat others with inherent fairness, and find deep contentment in simple, honest work. Their character is a testament to lived wisdom, even without the technical vocabulary. Their inner strength stands strong, built not from quoted passages but from applied understanding. Which of these two is truly living the philosophy? This invites a gentle but important reflection on your own path. In your own personal development, are you primarily seeking more knowledge, collecting more information, podcasts, and books? Or is your focus on cultivating more wisdom, on taking the insights you already have and putting them into consistent practice in your choices, your conversations, and your challenges? The pursuit of wisdom asks not what you know, but how you live. The Stoic is less concerned with how they will be remembered than with how they are living right now. This principle shifts the entire focus of a meaningful life from a distant, uncertain future to the tangible reality of your present choices. It asks you to invest your energy not in crafting a perfect epitaph, but in building a character so consistent and honorable that it becomes its own enduring monument, long after any public memory of you has faded. A good character is its own reward, and it is also its own legacy, radiating influence through the silent, powerful example of a life well lived. Marcus Aurelius, who led an empire, regularly confronted this truth in his private writings. He reminded himself that the memory of someone is quickly forgotten once they are gone, and that all the fame and singing of praises soon comes to an end, ending in a deep silence. What endures, then, is not the story told about you, but the quality you built within yourself and the invisible threads of influence you wove into the lives of others through your daily conduct. The most honorable legacy is not a name in a history book, but the positive impact you have on the people in your immediate circle. It is the patience you show a frustrated child, the integrity you demonstrate in a business dealing, or the quiet courage you display during a shared hardship. These are the moments that truly shape your legacy because they shape the character of those who witness them. They are the living inheritance you pass on, not through words, but through the power of a consistent example. Think of a mentor, a family member, or a friend whose simple, steady presence made you a better person. They likely were not trying to build a legacy. They were simply being who they were, acting with kindness, diligence, or honesty in countless small moments. That is the Stoic legacy in action, a quiet force that strengthens everyone it touches. Now turn that reflection inward. If you were to be remembered for one single character trait by those closest to you, what would you want it to be? Would it be your unwavering integrity, your boundless compassion, or your resilient courage? And with that ideal in mind, look honestly at your actions from this past week. Are the choices you are making, the words you are speaking, and the efforts you are giving actively building that very trait, brick by brick, in the foundation of your character? This unspoken code is not a set of rules carved in stone, but a living system built within. It transforms the raw material of your daily experience into the unbreakable foundation of your character. We have walked through a landscape of quiet principles, from the inner citadel of virtue to the discipline of your desires, from embracing your path to the thoughtful choice of your own words. Each one is a thread in a single, resilient fabric, woven not for the world to see, but for you to rely upon when everything else feels uncertain. Your honor, your peace, and your strength are not found in your circumstances, but in your unwavering response to them. This is the profound promise of the Stoic path, that by building from the inside out, you create something no external force can ever break. Marcus Aurelius, in the quiet of his own mind, offered a final, grounding truth. He wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. That strength is the ultimate reward of this code, a quiet confidence that endures because its source is your own virtuous will." So now, as this exploration comes to a close, a single question remains for you. Which one principle from our journey will you choose to weave into the fabric of your life, starting this very day? Will it be the pause before you react, the embrace of a current challenge, or the quiet practice of aligning your actions with your deepest values? Your choice is the next step in building your own unbreakable character. If this path of inner resilience speaks to you, we invite you to join our community here. Subscribe for more guides on applying these timeless ideas to the complexities of modern life. And we would be honored to hear from you in the comments below, which Stoic principle resonated most deeply with your own journey.